First of all, it seems that nobody in the Trump administration is ready to reunite kids with their families after a court order. Now they are doing DNA testing on kids to match them with their parents. Lawyers for children in custody have reported that government officials have been approaching them for blood and saliva. That's particularly worrisome because A, there's no way that these kids are consenting to DNA tests, and B, do we really want a government database of which kids have which DNA and where they come from, especially being non-citizens? The children are currently being held by Health and Human Services. The HHS secretary had this to say.
You referenced the deadline as artificial, so I'm not sure what that means as far as you being able to meet that deadline, but are you confident that every child will be accounted for?
Oh, every child is accounted for. We know every child, where they are. We know in our records the last time any kid had their fingernails clipped. We have comprehensive records on 11,800 kids in our care and custody. And so we will comply with the court's order. Now, we will work with the court. We are doing so today to get clarification and hopefully support from the court to allow us to do our job, to ensure that, in fact, these are parents of the children and ensure that they are suitable individuals to go back to these parents for. We're doing DNA testing on everybody who claims to be the parent of one of our children to confirm that. We check birth certificates. We have surged 230 HHS people and contractors out to ICE facilities to sit with the parents to get information to prove suitability and parentage of them to work through this process. Because what we care about is the kids' welfare.
That's the chief concern there.
Yeah,
I do buy though that they have accounted for the fingernail clippings. There's good DNA in them fingernails.
Exactly, right?
Also that speech, I hate when people seemingly ask for credit for doing the bare minimum of what they should be doing.
Which, are they even doing the bare minimum? I mean, well, actually, the court said that they do have to return the kids, but so far they haven't at all. There's over 3,000 children still being held by HHS. And I mean, they have, I think the next deadline for children under 5 is by next Tuesday. It doesn't seem like they're going to hit it. They're pushing against it pretty hard.
We had to get a court order so that kids could be able to call their parents.
That would be fantastic.
Well, but if that's what happened.
Well, and it sounds like from the beginning of that video that he had referred to that deadline as artificial.
Yeah.
I guess a judge just said it. I guess that's artificial.
Right.
Test that in other areas of life when you're potentially going to be committing a crime. But I mean, the fear is that they are not actually equipped to do so. They can say that they surged any number of different employees there. If they weren't initially getting the information they needed and they were shipping kids off around the country, it's possible that you can't actually reverse that.
I mean, it almost doesn't seem like they really had a plan to begin with. It doesn't seem like they thought that they would get enough pushback on this that they would have to reunite their families. And I think it's worth asking what happens on Tuesday if they don't meet this deadline? What happens in 30 days if they don't return any kids? What recourse do we really have? Are we going to jail the HHS?
Right.
I think that kind of question is frustrating, especially with the Trump administration pushing back to try and indefinitely detain kids and their parents together, which no due process, no real opportunity to leave unless they sign a piece of paper saying that they agree to be deported with their kids. It's a horrible situation for the kids and the parents with no real way out.
Yeah, I have no idea what the recourse would be if they don't actually fit it. Maybe they've got something in the actual decision, but at the end of the day, again, judicial decisions matter because we say that they matter.
Right.
And if we stop saying that they matter, I mean, God only knows what Trump is capable of.
I mean, that's almost right. That's the role of law enforcement, but law enforcement seems to be working for their side. So I don't know. It's frustrating and horrifying, and we'll see.
My fear overall, I talked about this briefly in the first hour, is that, I mean, although there were massive protests over the weekend, there were 700 protests not that long ago, my fear is always the same in American politics when it comes to American media, that people will move on, especially because there's, again, so much that happens. Scott Pruitt, just resigned. That's going to take up a lot of the oxygen in the room. We just said the 4th of July. We've got the Supreme Court choice coming up soon. I mean, are people going to focus on this? I think that there are some people who were convinced by his little executive order and think that this situation has been resolved when we're largely in the same situation we were a month ago.
Absolutely.
And we talked about what would happen if they just don't abide by these deadlines. I think what's scary for me, it's like we're discussing this DNA testing that's happening seemingly against everyone's will. Unfortunately, this is just where we are now. Would it have been better if this never happened in the first place? Absolutely, correct. Is there a better way to reunite these families? I'm not sure, but also I think what's most upsetting is that we are in this space that if this administration doesn't get court approval to indefinitely hold these children, detain these children, then this reunion essentially comes with a potential warning for a future possible split, which is upsetting, you know.
Yeah, and look, I mean, obviously the better situation is to never have had this situation in the first place.
Right,
not of the family
we're past
separations,
that.
not of the mandatory prosecutions. We did not do that before, not even before Donald Trump. In the first part of Donald Trump, we didn't even do that. That is a thing that they decided unilaterally to begin. They created every bit of this crisis themselves because of their choices, because of their callous, cruel, politically motivated choices. To attempt to fire up their base or to attempt to get some sort of hard right immigration bill passed, whatever the reason was, they chose to do this. And so them complaining that it's difficult to fix because people rightly are paying attention and rightly care about what's going on, I don't care about those tears. I care about the kids being reunited with their families.
I think also a lot of the pushback is incredibly frustrating because first they're holding kids hostage to try to get funding for the wall. Now there's the report that parents are being given a form that only has 2 options on it, one of which is I agree to be deported with my child and I agree to be deported without my child. That's not a real choice. And the fact that the Trump administration is framing it like, well, we're doing everything we can to solve this situation it's worse than dishonest. I mean, it's cruel and it violates so many international laws.
Yeah, and just even some of the discussion, they should have used a port of entry or stayed home. We're talking about asylum seekers. We're talking about people who are not safe. That is, I guess, insensitive at the least.
It's the same sort of callousness that greeted the Syrian refugees.
You can only get help that we agree you need if you come through the right door. I mean, come on.
2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below. Then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.